On today's episode, I speak to a CEO and co-founder of a leading tech app, and we discuss how his authentic personal brand helped build his business and take his app to the next level. Hello and welcome to the Powerful Personal Brand Podcast, where my guests and I share tips to help and inspire you to build a great personal brand. I am your host, Claire Bahn, and on today's episode, I am very excited to be joined by Brian Clayton. Brian is the CEO and co-founder of Greenpal. His company has been called the Uber for lawn care by Entrepreneur Magazine and has over 200,000 active users completing thousands of transactions per day. Thank you so much for being here, Brian. I'm very excited to have you.
Claire, it's great to be on. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah. So tell me about your journey. How did you get where you are today?
Yeah. So currently CEO, co-founder of Greenpal, a mobile app that is the Uber for lawn care services. So if you're a homeowner, need grass cutting rather than calling around all over town, you can just download Greenpal, pop your address in, you get quotes back really quick, and then you can hire somebody to mow your yard for you right through the app. And if everything goes well, you schedule it for the whole season, and it just happens like magic. Greenpal is a 10-year, 11-year overnight success. My two co-founders and I have been at this project for a little over a decade, and now we're nationwide in the United States. So anywhere in the United States, if you live in a town with over 15,000 people, you can use Greenpal to get lawn mowing services. Before Greenpal, I actually mowed yards for a living for 15 years.
Wow.
I started mowing.
So you were like, we need to make this easier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I spent 15 years as a landscaping contractor. Actually built it into a real nice size business, about 100 employees. And in 2013, that business was acquired by a national company. And I took some time off, got bored, and thought, okay, what am I going to do with my life now? And the idea for Greenpal was something that I always wanted to try and work on, and it took me a while to get it going. But after about 10 years, now we've got a good platform that's helping thousands of people every day get lawn mowing services.
That's amazing. I'm always really happy because my story is similar. It kind of happened more organically. It was based on what I knew. And I think that you have a lot of people that kind of come out of left field. You're just like, why did you even think of this idea? The fact that you literally made your living doing this and you actually made it better for people that are in the landscape business, as well as users that want to find people, you actually understood the problems. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people, if they're thinking of just the tech solution, they may not understand the actual issues that the users themselves are dealing with. Yeah,
that's right. It's a very, very good point. I think we have entered an age of authenticity, and especially now in a world with AI and everything, that the more authentic you can be, the greater your competitive advantage, and that authenticity can be a competitive advantage. And so for us, we knew the landscaping business inside and out before we tried to build a technology solution around it. And, 2013, 14, 15, when Uber was exploding, there was also a lot of venture capital getting thrown at these Uber for X ideas. Uber for home cleaning, Uber for valet parking, Uber for, home painting, you name it. And pretty much all of them crashed and burned because, to your point, the Uber for home cleaning, the team behind that had never cleaned a house in their life. And so they didn't understand the dynamics of the home cleaning business. They didn't understand what the day in the life of a home cleaner actually looked and felt like. So it was really hard to develop a authentic set of tools to solve the problems for that particular industry. So that helped us, but it didn't, it was still a very challenging journey getting the platform going and building out the tech stack around it. But that was one thing that we were able to avoid a lot of mistakes.
Even there probably are competitors to yours. I don't particularly know them because I don't have a lawn, but basically if you had to find service, there are competitors. And so ultimately it's like, what makes someone decide to go with you over someone else? It's usually the story of the founder. You actually are just like, that's so awesome that that's just kind of a very interesting, really cool story. And I don't know that many of these, I'm thinking like care.com and some of these other ones that are kind of connect people, Thumbtack, you're like, what is the founder's story? Who is the founder?
Yeah.
And I think that, right? Because you can't even connect with it. But with yours, if you're there front and center, So like with your brand, are you front and center? Are you like kind of like the CEO behind the brand? Are you talking about the brand? Are you connecting with potential customers in that way?
Yes, I really try to live, eat, and breathe Greenpal. It is 7 days a week for me, and it has been for 10 or 11 years. But I haven't worked a day in 10 years. It's really what I love doing. I've always woken up every day and done what it is I wanted to do that day. And
Mm-hmm.
Greenpal is to me this project that has always been interesting and always been fun and always been fulfilling to see it grow. And the first, 1,000 people that used the platform had my cell phone number. I talked to them
Oh,
personally. I got in the trenches with the first 500 landscaping services that used it to understand how they were interacting with what we were building, and to help coach them along to use the system, and then also where my assumptions were not correct. There was a lot of gaps in my thinking of what we were building, and so using that customer feedback and being out front, the autoresponder email going to my email address, my cell phone number
mm,
being on the homepage, things like that were really, really crucial in the early days to lend that authenticity to what we were doing, but
mm-hmm.
also to just break down the barriers, and that let that user feedback kind of go right to where it needed to my head, to be able to figure out what we were building.
Yeah.
Because there's this weird thing that happens with every new product, every new startup, that there's like founder logic and there's customer logic. And both these people are looking at the set of problems from different angles, different
Mm-hmm.
perspectives. And you want to try to like break down the walls between founder logic and customer logic. And one way to do that is to be out front, be kind of the face of the product, and communicate with your customers thoroughly 7 days a week. I still do customer support at least an hour a day because I want to know what they're thinking and saying.
That's absolutely amazing. I think it was funny. I was actually talking to a friend of mine who works at a very large multinational corporation doing marketing, and so it's dealing with kind of like B2C consumer products. And so all of the people that are building the product, they feel like it's their baby. And so she's trying to market it, and they're like, "No, your marketing has to say these things." And I'm like, they're like, "No, that's convoluted and strange, and the customers don't understand it." And like, so what you're saying is like, yeah, basically that's the founder or the product engineer's logic. You're like, no, you need to step aside now, because if the consumer doesn't understand
That's right.
what we're trying to go to market with, it's
That's
not
right.
going to work.
That's right. You have to meet the customer where they're at, and
Yeah.
and build up from there. And it's so easy to lose that perspective and really be looking at it from a whole nother paradigm, and not be speaking the same language, and not be offering a solution that they need. And
Or
that's
taking it
what's
personally.
that's
Like,
ooh, yeah. Yeah.
right? You're like, no, like I said, my baby. This is
Yeah.
your baby, right?
Yeah.
You actually knew, but yeah, I think it actually takes a very, strong person who has like, high emotional intelligence, who can say, you know what, this is my baby, but I'm going to take your feedback because you're
But
right.
sometimes the baby's ugly, and you need that feedback to see the blind spots, to figure out where you got to fix it. I mean, yeah, you have to have conviction about certain things, and you kind of have to know and go with intuition on certain things, but you also have to be, it's like this rigid flexibility, it's this paradox, that you have to also listen to what customers are telling you, and adapt and evolve, and solve their problems and meet them where they're at.
No, I mean, we've definitely had to do that with our own business, because, you change it, who you're talking to, because when our teams like in sales calls, they're like, this is what they're asking for. And our messaging is not saying that. We just need to say what they want. Because otherwise they're like, I don't know if you're the right person for me, because I'm looking for, I don't know, whatever specific words. And you're just kind of like, okay, well, here's the words. And they're like, oh, you're my person. You're like, so easy.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad, but effective communication is something that we're not taught.
Yeah.
Nobody teaches us this stuff in school, and nobody, even in business school or marketing school, we're not taught these things, and it's something you kind of have to learn as you go. The good thing is, but these days, YouTube University and podcasts and stuff like that, you can learn from practitioners and understand good copywriting and understand how to run a good sales process and understand how to meet a customer where they're at. But nobody teaches us this stuff.
Yeah. I find that so many times when people are like coming up with their brand statement or what their business is about, it's this strange, convoluted, wordy, like it really doesn't convey anything except you went to a thesaurus and put all the cool words in there, maybe some jargon, and like it actually doesn't tell people what you do.
That's right. And or why it matters or how it's any different than the competition. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And ultimately all the customers really want is simplicity.
That's right.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I learned that the hard way building Greenpal because I made all those mistakes. And I learned the hard way that when somebody arrives at your homepage, a landing page, or downloads your mobile app, and you have to answer 3 questions in 3 seconds. Where am I? What can I do here? And why does it matter? Because everybody's in a hurry. Everybody just wants to get their problem solved. Nobody wants to take the time to like chew through your copy and understand what it means and process it. You have to answer where am I? What can I do here? And why does it matter? In like less than 3 seconds. And you have to do that with your value proposition. And your value proposition is, if I am your ideal prospect, why should I do business with you over any other option that I have available? And the answer to that needs to start with because we are the only way that you can do X, Y, and Z, even though it's this. And so for us, it's like we are the fastest way to get a grass cutting service, even if your lawn is 4 feet tall. Like that's the value proposition. and it's like, if you don't have a lawn and if it's not tall, then we're not a good fit for you. But if you do, boy, do I have a product for you. And so that's kind of how you have to think through that to cut through the, especially, our attention span as a species, I think, is contracting every year. And so maybe the 3 seconds is now a second and a half. You have to get to the point. What can you do here and why does it matter? And why do you do it better than anybody else?
I think that we used to give things more time when there was less coming at you. Yeah. Now you have so much coming at you. You're just kind of like, okay, are you even worth my time? I know that I know that I'm constantly giving directives to my team. I'm like, okay, I saw this post that this person did. It is like worst case scenario. I saw it, Snoresville. Don't ever create a post like this, So I'm kind of, I find like best case scenarios and worst case scenarios, but it's the ones that bore me. You're just like, okay, I was slightly intrigued by your hook, but then you catfished me there with that one, man. Like, cause this is like long diatribe. It's like, what are you doing? No, get to the point.
See, that's, I think I agree with everything you're saying. And I think that a lot of what like AI and ChatGPT is spitting out is that kind of milquetoast middle that you're describing. And I think that it still takes a little bit of talent to create the outer extremes. And so I think if you're a good copywriter, if you're a good social media marketer, if you're running a good personal brand, if you're building a good brand, if you're doing these things, AI isn't going to take your job away anytime soon, because AI is good at spitting out all of that boring stuff in the middle that you just described that C and D players can also spit out. I think if you're a C or a D player, or maybe even a B minus, the next 5 years are going to be tough because AI can do that. Like you just described, AI can do all of that. But if you are exceptional at creating good copy, I think it's going to be a long time before AI replaces that.
I love that. Yeah. Cause I think simplicity actually kind of shows a sign of intelligence. The fact that you can distill something down simply actually shows intelligence. So many people they add words for no apparent reason except to bore you. But if you could actually just kind of like simply describe something, like the 30-second pitch, you had to go out for funding. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, these investors don't have time for you to kind of wishy-washy. Well, it's like this. Well, it's like that. Well, no, the Uber for grass cutting, get to the point.
It's so hard to do. You're exactly right, and the reason why it is valuable is because it's so hard to achieve that success through subtraction, where it is hard to to achieve that elegance. But the thing is if you're building a new product or service, you have to be the best in the world at something. And you can't be all of these things. And so you have to like cut out all of the crap and all of the things that don't matter and get down to what is the thing that you do better than anybody else in the world. And this could go this could go in like if you're starting a marketing agency or something, you're going to have to be really good at one thing for one type of customer to break out of the noise. You're not going to be the best in your market at social and SEO and all the different channels at the same time. You're going to have to really be excellent at one and then form everything around that one thing. And I think everybody, the common mistake is to try to be good at all these things and then try to say it all in one page or one pitch, and it just falls flat. So I agree with everything you're saying, but it is hard. It's really hard.
So when you were going through the process of building your brand, how did you decide what social media channels to focus on?
We tested everything. And so we had a mantra, still do test and invest. And so we tried everything, and I guess we had about a $10,000 budget for every channel we could, and to try to unlock something that would work for us. And one thing that we found that worked the best was Google organic search. So if you need lawn mowing service nearby me, that was working better than anything else in terms of throwing a firepower at. But in terms of social, what we found was finding out where the conversations around people looking for lawn care services were happening. And what we began to find was inside of Facebook groups, people were always asking for recommendations for lawn mowing services. And you would think like this wouldn't happen, but it actually happens like 100 times a day, times thousands of groups. And so what we started to do was build up from the ground up. My co-founders and I would just hang out in these groups, and anybody that was looking for a lawn mowing service, we would just like respond to that, and we would pick up an extra 200 or 300 signups a week that way. And we did this ourselves in the early days. And then as time went on, we built out a team that actually started doing this, and so it was a good way to get our first couple of thousand customers, in the trenches, hand cranking it. And letting people know about Greenpal when they were looking for lawn care services, and we still do it to this day. We monitor these groups, and we just let people know that are looking for lawn mowing services. Hey, you might want to check out Greenpal. And we still get thousands of signups that way.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, do you believe there's like certain times when someone should focus on their personal brand and times when they shouldn't focus on their personal brand?
Really, 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 really good question. Because so on the one hand, so let me answer this two ways. From my perspective, as a founder and as a CEO, our team is now like 47 people, and now in year 10, I have started to invest in my personal brand probably for the last 4 years, and I do that because I believe like rising tides lift all boats, and so I feel like if as my visibility grows, that the Greenpal brand grows along with it, and as I give more talks, as I do more interviews, as I do put out more content, it's just better exposure for the Greenpal brand. It's really hard to measure that, but it's just good. It's just good business, and also I enjoy it. I enjoy doing interviews. I enjoy giving talks. I enjoy helping other entrepreneurs. So it's a fun hobby for mine. However, like if I started doing that day one, I might have gotten sidetracked on like what really mattered. And what really mattered was just talking to my customers, talking to my first, dozen customers, 100 customers, figuring out where I was letting them down, and really trying to fix my product to solve their needs. So that's one way I look at it.
But I think that was building your brand.
Yeah. Because hand cranking it definitely.
No,
I mean you got to,
because you were building a relationship, and because basically your brand is how people feel about you. So they
very true.
felt something about you,
even if it's only 10 or 20 people. That's right. Even if it's only 10 or 20 people, that's your brand. So you
were building your personal brand.
Yeah, it maybe not taking the steps to magnify it, but I was laying a foundation to where it's hard to fake that later, right? So that's one way I look at it. But on the other hand, whenever I'm hiring somebody, like I don't care about their resume. I don't care about where they went to school. I want to look at like what their GitHub looks like, what or if they're a designer, what their Behance looks like, or do they have a Medium account? What's their Instagram look like? If they're like a designer, do they have a really beautiful Instagram, or their Pinterest boards? Like so. So I'm looking at their personal brand as evidence to like what kind of person is this? Are they a curious person? Do they have hobbies and projects that they're doing? Are they a motivated person to put together something where as like a repository of evidence of things that they have done and accomplished? It's not who you know, it's what you've built. And a lot of times a personal brand is evidence of what you've built. So I think nowadays it's more important than ever because people who are looking to hire you, whether it's as a freelancer basis or as an employee basis, team member basis, they're going to be looking at your personal brand, whether you have one or not, as evidence of the things you have accomplished as it relates to what your skill set is, versus here's my resume, here's where I worked, and here's where I went to school. I think those days are over. So that's the way I see it. I agree. I think it's important to think about day one and start working on, start building, and start accumulating, and take time once a week. And you may have to carve out time on the weekend for this, to post to Quora, what your thoughts are on certain things that are related to what you're doing, or if you are a designer, what your portfolio looks like out there. If you're a developer, what your stuff on GitHub looks like. Do you have a reputation that's accumulating all of these positive signals that is your brand?
Yeah. When we have hired team members, designers, all that kind of thing, I actually look at their website. Do they have a personal website? If they don't have a personal website, we just move on.
Right.
It really, no, because that is your personal brand. You talk about Behance and all that kind of stuff. Those are good. But if you don't have your personal brand, like your name, your website, and that website should be your portfolio of whatever it is. You're a writer and you don't showcase your writing.
Be the hub. That should be the hub. And all of the stuff needs to connect back to that. You're exactly right.
Exactly.
If not, it's like it's a leap of faith to work with you. I have no third party signals to validate what you can do. And a resume just does not do that anymore. You have to go one step beyond that.
Yeah. And I don't think a college degree really means remotely the same thing as it did when I got my college degree and that kind of thing, right? It's just like now it's, I got a college degree in public relations, but then you get in there and you're like, you actually have no idea what you're doing. Like in the real world.
Exactly.
You're like, no, it's absolutely amazing. I completely agree with you that your personal brand for hiring is so key. Get it together.
Yep, I think it could be the difference as much as 30 or 40 or 50% in earning potential. Because if not, then you're kind of just probably going for that tier 2, 3, or 4 job at a tier 2 or 3 or 4 company where the opportunities are going to be much less for you versus like getting a role on a rocket ship somewhere, where you're going to ride, along with them and be a part of that. In order to break into those tier 1 elite types of positions, I think you have to have a really good, strong personal brand. And guess what? The personal brand needs to be authentic. It needs to be actual stuff you're doing. Like if you're a writer, it needs to be well-written stuff. If you're a designer, it needs to be good-looking designs. If you're a developer, it's got to be a really, really good code. You can't fake this stuff. And I think that's what makes it valuable.
Yeah. Well, so you obviously have, some experience in this. So what are like 3 tips that you can share with the audience that about what you learned while building your personal brand?
What I learned building mine was do the things you like to do with respect to building your personal brand. So I like Instagram. I like travel. I like showcasing my tips and talks there. So that's what I gravitate towards. And really pour all of your own sweat equity into that thing that you like, the channel you like the most. And then you can leverage freelancers or people to help you kind of syndicate out to the other ones. Just to be there and to have something there is the way I have approached it. because I've tried to do everything myself and it doesn't work. And then also I've tried to outsource everything and that doesn't work either. So I think you have to like pick the one you like the most and then pour all of your authenticity into one and then try to like port that to the other ones if you can. That's worked for me. The other thing is making it a daily habit, like the book Atomic Habits. The things you're doing every single day, like reach out to 5 podcasters that you admire every day or every other day. Like make it a part of your schedule and talk to them about, okay, this is what I liked about your show. I thought this, and this. I could, if you would like, I could come on and talk about this, and this. Making it part of that routine, making your personal brand part of like a daily routine is big, because these little things don't add up, they compound. If you do them for a long period of time, next thing you know, if 5 years goes by and you started off, with no visibility, and now guess what? You've got a little bit of visibility in a niche somewhere. And then the other thing I would say with personal brand is to really just try to focus on what you've done and expand on that and talk about what you've done. Don't try to be something you're not. Don't try to be and talk about things that you haven't done, because I think that's going to it's going to shine through really, really, really quickly. Like for me, I've built and sold an 8-figure business, and I'm building another business that's doing $30 million a year in revenue. And this is the stuff, that's the lane I stay in. Like I don't talk about 9-figure businesses. I've never built a 9-figure business. I don't talk about a company with 1,000 employees. I've never ran a business with 1,000 employees. I ran a business with 100 employees. And so these are the things I've done, and so these are the things I talk about. So I think it's important to like stay in that lane of authenticity, and not try to be and do things that you haven't done, because that's going to be discovered really quickly.
Yeah, well, it's those people that are only relying on ChatGPT to create their content.
That's right. That's right.
So Brian, this has been so great. I thank you so much for being here. Where can people connect with you?
Well, thanks for having me on, Claire. If anybody listening to this doesn't want to waste time mowing their own yard, just go to greenpal.com. And then anybody who wants to hit me up, Instagram is the best place to find me. Find me at Brian M. Clayton.
Awesome. Oh, Brian, thank you so much for being here. Really, really solid tips, well-earned experience. And I really appreciate you being here, and what a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
All right. Well, and thank you for listening and watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.